Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today we're going to start something a little bit different. If you guys have watched any of my previous videos, you know that we focused on cognitive behavioral therapy. This time we're going to shift gears and we're going to go into what is known as dialectical behavioral therapy. As always, before we get started, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to email me at utlcsw@gmail.com. As always, I will not respond to any comments or anything that you may leave. If, like I said, questions, comments, concerns, please come to me personally. And we are going to go ahead and dive right in. So what is dialectical behavioral therapy? Dialectical behavioral therapy is actually a very new therapy modality. It's only been around for, I would say, 30, 35-ish years. And it came about to be by Dr. Marsha Linehan. She is still alive and practicing today. But dialectical behavioral therapy is something a little bit different than cognitive behavioral therapy. So you might notice that there's one letter difference, CBT versus DBT, and it is because dialectical behavioral therapy was actually kind of founded from the model of CBT. Okay. DBT is a lot of skill-based things to kind of help manage emotions, where cognitive behavioral therapy is really focused on changing cognition. So changing those thoughts. So DBT is known as dialectical behavioral therapy. It is a therapy modality that focuses on using skills to cope with intense negative emotions. CBT focuses on identifying and changing your negative thought patterns in order to have more positive emotions and behaviors. DBT simply is just focusing on those negative emotional responses. So it's really a therapy modality aimed at helping you with heavy emotions. It's not necessarily focused on when you have a heavy emotion, let's link it back to the thought and see what was wrong with the thought. It's more so, let's validate the fact that you're having a negative or a bad thought, and let's validate it, have the emotion, and make it so we don't have a negative behavior. So it really focuses on emotions more than the thought process. Okay, we use DBT skills throughout the process to further help with the finalization of reshaping our thought, emotion, and behavioral processes. This that I have created for you is by no means all of DBT. So I do have a little bit of a disclosure at the bottom that this is not a DBT course. Okay, in order to undergo straight dialectical behavioral therapy, you actually have to be a dialectical behavioral therapy certified therapist. I do have some certifications in DBT, but I am not Marsha Linehan DBT trained. There's a difference. Okay. So this is by no means a crash course in DBT. This by no means has all of the DBT skills. I have just picked some skills that I help with people that I see really help with what my whole goal is with people, is to get people to see that everything is related to a core belief problem, a core belief system. Okay. These skills I have found are the most helpful within DBT to get people to that place of really true transformation, like being able to truly transform the self. Instead of just having the skills of DBT, I have kind of went through and chosen some skills that I have found are the most beneficial to my people in individual therapy that I would love to just bring to you. So this is not a DBT course. This is not an overview of all things DBT. I have simply just taken some skills from dialectical behavioral therapy to really kind of help you in transformation. These skills will actually go hand in hand with what you learned in the first module or cognitive behavioral therapy video. So I kind of consider all of that one module of information, that cognitive behavioral therapy. This is just going to be the skill sets that kind of go right hand in hand with that to further help you in the transformation process. So that is DBT. Again, if you have any questions about that, comments, concerns, go ahead and email me and I will try to walk you through those as much as possible. But moving forward, I'm going to give you the very first skill set that I like to give people in individual therapy. And this is a dialectical behavioral therapy skill called the 3 states of mind. In dialectical behavioral therapy, you actually have different modules of skill sets that you will go through. So for example, there is a module of core mindfulness skills. There is a module of interpersonal effectiveness. There is a module of emotion regulation. Okay, there's a few different modules of things within DBT that kind of break skills down even further. The 3 states of mind actually is in the core mindfulness set of skill bases in that modality. Okay. So you have DBT, and then it's broken off into these little modules. The 3 states of mind is within mindfulness. Okay. It's a very simple skill, and I teach it to almost everybody that comes through my door. Okay. This skill is used to help people make more effective decisions in what we call, quote unquote, the wise mind. So it is said that you have 3 states of your mind, 1 mind, 3 states, essentially. And you have an emotion mind, a logical mind or a reasonable mind, and a wise mind. And they are kind of exactly what they say. Just like when we did thinking errors, they're exactly what they say. So the emotion mind is the state of your mind when you have thoughts, feelings, behaviors rooted solely in emotion. Okay, so for example, yelling at someone you are upset with and saying things you don't really mean. Okay, you're yelling because you're frustrated, you're upset, you're annoyed. So you're behaving based on how you feel. And at that time, we could probably go back to the thoughts, and the thoughts probably wouldn't be what we would call positive either. So your emotion mind is when you have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors rooted solely in that emotion. Okay. Then your rational or logical mind is the state of mind when one has thoughts, feelings, and behaviors rooted solely in logics and facts. Okay. That's it. So an example that I have provided is taking a job that might not necessarily be exciting, but it kind of checks all of your logical boxes. Okay. Then your wise mind. The wise mind is essentially when you have thoughts, feelings, and behaviors rooted in both emotion and logic and facts. And the example that I show here, you can see on the screen, it says dream job activity. We're going to do that on the next slide, but that's the 3 states of mind. So your emotion mind is just when you are thinking, feeling, and behaving simply because you're emotional. Your logical and reasonable mind is when you're thinking, feeling, behaving solely on the facts. Neither one of them is the best place to be. You really want to strive to be in wise mind as much as possible. Okay. As much as possible, you want to be in that wise mind. Okay. On the screen, you can see there's a diagram of this in the next slide, along with the first homework assignment. Please ignore that unless you have purchased my workbook that you do along with these slides. There is a little bit of a homework assignment in there. That is for people that are actually have purchased my workbook and are seeing me more one-on-one to kind of go through this process, but then they have one-on-one sessions with myself after these videos, and they have purchased a workbook. So if that is something you're interested in, please email me. I do offer one-on-one coaching and therapy sessions for people. And I've just provided the videos online so you don't essentially have to pay for that. But the workbook is for purchase. And then, like I said, you just meet with me. So please ignore the homework assignment unless you are seeing me one-on-one with these videos. Okay, so the diagram, a Venn diagram. We've probably all seen these at one point of our life, but in the 3 states of mind, this is something that is really used just to kind of show people how on one side you have the emotion mind, on one side you have the logic mind, and when you bring them together, it creates that wise mind in the middle. Okay. Some people, some of my clients, when they do this homework assignment, they actually like to print out a Venn diagram like this, or I will provide them one like this, and they will actually go through the week and kind of write in that emotion mind piece when they felt like they were an emotion mind. Some of my people will do it on the logic mind and the wise mind. I will say it's harder than what you think to go through the week and see when you are emotional, logical, and wise-minded. So that is one way that you can do it. You really can just write it out on a piece of paper. If you would like some more handouts regarding the 3 states of mind or anything like that, again, email me. I can get you connected with a ton of different resources and worksheets and things like that. Okay, so examples of the wise mind, the dream job activity. This is the example I use the most with people undergoing individual therapy. And I always ask people, if you could wake up tomorrow and have your dream job, what would that be? And I get a variety of answers. But for example, we'll just say one of my clients says, I want to be an engineer. That's my dream job. And I say, okay, so you get a call tomorrow and this company is offering you your dream job in engineering. What is your emotion mind going to say? And they'll say things like, well, I would be excited. I would be happy. I would be ready to go. And I say, okay, but before we make that decision, what logically do you have to think about before you just say yes? And some of the answers I get are, well, I would have to know how much it pays. And do I have to travel? Do I get benefits? On and on and on. Things like that we logically have to think about before we take a job. And I say, okay, so let's do this. What if they call you and they offer you more of a salary than what you thought possible. Let's say $150,000 a year is what they offer you. There is no travel. You can stay right where you're at. You're going to get full benefits. Your insurance premiums are going to be very low, and you're only going to have to work 4 days a week. And you really can kind of work essentially whenever you want, as long as the work is done. And then my clients are like, well, sign me up. I'm in, right? And I say, okay, why is that? And they said, well, that matched everything I needed. And that was my dream job. So the emotion and the logic came together. I'm going to make that wise mind decision and say yes. And I say, okay, so now let's flip the script. What if the same company calls you and they offer you, I don't know, $60,000 a year, and you have to work 9 to 5, 5 days a week, and you have to find your own benefits? And they were like, absolutely not. And I said, but what happened? And a lot of my clients will say, well, my emotion went from excited and happy to kind of annoyed and frustrated. And then the logic didn't match. I can't live off $60,000 a year. I don't want to work 5 days a week. It just didn't, the emotion and the logic started to, they still went together, but it started to dwindle. So now my decision is no. Okay. You really want to make sure the emotion and the logic go together. So now let's kind of go back to the first example where they offered you all of those great things. And let's say engineering wasn't your dream job. Let's say it was something that just did not excite you. You weren't happy about it. You don't feel like you would be fulfilled. You don't feel confident in that. And you take the job because it pays well and it's got the benefits and it's essentially got logically everything you need, and you take the job. That's not a wise mind decision. That's a logic minded decision. Okay. Because eventually, because that emotional piece is not there, it's going to crumble. It doesn't matter how good of benefits you have. Your thoughts, emotions, and behaviors are essentially going to become rooted in errors, and things are going to start not looking so great. It's the same if you choose a job based out of emotion and not logic. If you get your dream job, but they don't pay you what you need and they don't give you the benefits that you need, eventually things are going to start falling through the cracks, because you really want to make sure the emotion and the logic match. The goal is to make sure that they match. Okay. So I'll give you an example. My dream job, any of you that see me individually know what my dream, not essentially my dream job, but one of my goals is essentially, and I'm going to say this name. Some people don't like this. Some people rant and rave about it. One of my ultimate goals is to get on the Joe Rogan podcast. Okay. I do not care what you think about him. I don't necessarily care about your opinion about him, whether it's positive or negative. I want to get on his show because he brings a lot of people on that kind of will help show people that the narrative that you have been taught is not necessarily true. And as you continue watching my videos, you're going to see that I actually do not necessarily believe that we know the truth about mental health. I essentially think there's a part of us that have been lied to about mental health. And I especially think anxiety, depression, especially those two diagnoses, are not what people think they are. I think most of the population that has been diagnosed is misdiagnosed. If you keep watching my videos, you will see why. If I was to explain that right now without having the buildup of skills that you're going to get, it won't make sense. But that's one of my dream things. And emotionally, if I was to get that call, I would be nervous. I would be excited. I would be ready to go. I would feel confident in the information that I could get out there. But logically, I know why I'm doing it, because my logic behind that is to show people you don't have to live like this. You don't have to be on all these medications. You don't have to live like you're living with these symptoms of anxiety, depression, ADHD, on and on and on. And I really want to shift the narrative about mental health in general. So that is kind of my dream job activity that I give people. But as you can see, my emotion, my logic match, right? One of the whole reasons I'm doing these YouTube videos is because emotionally, I see people come into my office, and once they get going with me, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, why is this information not freely out there? I've been to therapy before. I've watched videos. I don't see the pieces put together like this. And so that got me thinking, emotionally, people need this. And logically, most people can't afford thousands of dollars of therapy. So I made the decision to come on YouTube and make these as freely as possible for people, because my ultimate goal is to change the narrative and to get people to see you're not anxious and depressed. That's not what the problem is. There's actually something deeper than that. There's something deeper causing symptoms of anxiety and depression, but you yourself are not anxious and depressed. Okay. That was my emotion and my logic coming together to make that wise mind. Do I know that YouTube is 100% going to be the best route? No, I don't. But for me, it works. You're going to learn about do what works in the next little bit. Okay. So that is intro to DBT. That is the 3 states of mind. Remember, dialectical behavioral therapy focuses on negative emotional responses to try and kind of help you through those negative emotions so we don't have a destructive behavior. And the 3 states of mind. You have one mind, 3 states. Okay. An emotion mind, a logic mind, and a wise mind. You want to strive to be in that wise mind. If you want any homework assignments, if you have any further questions, if you want worksheets or anything on this, please let me know. You can go into Google and type in DBT, 3 states of mind, or even just 3 states of mind. So many things are going to come up. It's a very easy skill set, but there's going to be different worksheets, and different worksheets work for different people. So if you want more information on the 3 states of mind, you don't even have to email me. You can just get onto Google real fast. Wise mind, 3 states of mind, DBT, 3 states of mind, and you will come up with 1,000,001 different ways to get more information on this skill and how to use this skill. Okay. I hope this was helpful. I'll see you in the next one.